I'd wager you've never heard a tale quite like this before. There's a pond on the edge of a little town called Fair Willow, a perfectly unspectacular name for a place that hides one of the strangest, most haunting local legends ever told. But don't take my word for it. Let's wade in together. Welcome to the Nightside Archive. Tonight, I bring you the chilling tale of the drowning man's song, the legend of Ridgewater Pond. Ridgewater Pond isn't particularly large, nor does it sit in a foreboding valley or atop cursed land, as one might expect from such a story. It simply lies flat, remote, and surrounded by tall reeds that sway in relentless whispers when the wind kisses them. But here, the calm appearance deceives mortals who wander too close. Most locals steer clear when dusk begins its descent, but there are always exceptions. Take Martha Blake, for instance. She claimed the reflection of the moon on the water was the most serene sight she'd ever known. Her shoes were often caked with mud, evidence of her secret visits. She said the silence eased her troubled mind, but something changed in the spring of 1987. Nobody knows exactly why Martha went to the pond so often, but the story says it started raining one evening while she was there. The drizzle-paved ridges in the muddy ground, eventually growing into a downpour. Martha stood under her umbrella, but couldn't take her eyes off the water's surface. Not because it was beautiful. No, it had become something else entirely. It rippled violently, as though something below had disturbed it. Then, the sound came. A humming that seemed at first accidental, chaotic, like the vibrations of the reeds, but it quickly grew clearer. Intentional. It wasn't humming. It was singing. She swore, even until the day she passed, that the voice sounded childlike, innocent almost, yet faintly warped, as if the water itself struggled to form words. It sang a melody that pulled on her like a magnetic force. Each step she took closer to the pond felt involuntary, as though her feet were no longer hers to command. The song grew louder, more persistent, yet no other creature stirred in the area. Not a bird, not an insect. It pulled her mind into dark corridors, insisting she stay. The more she listened, the heavier her body became. The harder it was to resist the lure of those enchantingly eerie tones. The voice seemed to whisper her name, but fractured into painful sobbing within seconds. There, just faintly beneath the waterline, she noticed a shadow, not giant or beastly, but distinctly human-shaped, writhing as though trying to force its way out. She screamed as she fled that night, ran as though her life depended on it, and the following morning, half of Fair Willow whispered nervously about the echo of distant wails heard resounding all the way from her corner of town. The story might have faded had it not been for the curious case of Henry Vaughn. Henry, an amateur photographer new to the area, dismissed the stories with a laugh. Ghost ponds. Really? He sneered to the old-timers at the cafe, earning the sour glances that only skeptical newcomers deserved. When dared to photograph the pond at night, Henry eagerly agreed. The town's last memory of Henry was the click of his camera bag under the dim streetlights when the clock struck 9. He never came home. Weeks passed before search parties decided to dredge Ridgewater Pond as a last resort. What they found clinging to the reeds was as grotesque as it was unexplainable. Henry was there, but his face seemed distorted in sheer terror, the expressions on the verge of something impossible to describe. Some said Frodo under the muck. Others whispered about the bone-white remains peeking unnaturally through. It wasn't what they found that scared the town most. It was what they didn't find. Henry Vaughn's photographs turned up in his waterlogged bag, miraculously intact. But every image he'd taken had been altered. Was that the right word? Modified? You see, the pond cast back reflections that weren't there. If you looked into those images long enough, people swear you'd notice strange shapes. A hand reaching out. Shadows too dark, even for night, in places they shouldn't be.